What's up, everybody? This is Jimmy with Trading Decoded. It's September 24th, 2024. 4:03 in the afternoon. The market is closed. Fortunately, this morning provided us with a nice move down, followed by a nice move up. And then, just like yesterday, the chart went to crap. Guys, I'm pretty much going to be covering just the first half of the day because that is the only time of the day that I prefer to trade, number one. And quite frankly, in the near future, when I say in the near future, and some of you are finding this out for the first time, I'm going to be no longer incentivizing or staying on the microphone past 12 o'clock in our Discord community starting January. Now, I'm going to put that up to vote between the Christmas and New Year's week that we take off to see what the general consensus is across the board for our community members. But that is my goal, and I hope to achieve two things out of that. Number one, I hope to incentivize people to walk away from the charts at some point. I do recognize that there are a lot of folks who will continue to sit in front of and continue to trade simply because I'm enabling it by just being on the microphone talking about a chart. The other reason, and more importantly, is that I myself don't trade for all sorts of reasons after 12 o'clock because my way of trading is not successful after 12 o'clock. So I can't sit here in good conscience and suggest other people continue to do what I won't do myself. And with that, it's very hypocritical, right? So after 12 o'clock currently in our community, we talk about everything that you have questions about, but not in real time about the charts anymore because theta's too high and moves like today slow down sometimes too much, and you get yourself into trouble. So just a heads up. But with that being said, for those of you who do watch my videos, expect shorter videos to come in the near future. How short? I don't know. I would say probably in the 10-minute range or less. If you want to learn everything that I talk about and everything that I do and all the information that I use to come up with the trades and everything that we find and we take and we talk about, just watch any of my previous videos, guys. Every one of my videos includes the same information day in and day out. The only thing that changes is where we are in the market as far as SPY goes. Okay, so these videos do act as something that people do watch every day. And they find some tidbits of information out of them that is useful to them. But for the most part, the strategy is identical every day. Okay. So with that, let's go ahead and launch a chart. I don't know if I've told you guys this before, but I'm doing a one and done challenge. Started the last day of August, and I'm carrying it through the end of September just to see how that goes. So far, it's going pretty well. And quite frankly, the reason I'm doing that is because when I do decide to retire, I will continue to trade. I'll just take one trade a day and go about my life and my business and just enjoying the free time that the market would be providing me should I decide to walk away from the charts. I don't want to leave a 9-to-5 job to end up in another 9-to-5 job, and neither should you. With that said, pre-market was very gappy. And a little bit boring. It didn't feel real good in either direction, to be honest with you. The market was pretty happy. Everything was up at the time, near open. And that leads us to our call put scenario. Our call put scenario, the call scenario was difficult because by the time we were doing the call scenario, we were already above our pre-market high level. As you know, we do these at 9:25 in the morning. What I don't like to do is buy fresh highs of day at the open. It's not a smart thing to do, especially if Qs at the time are at a line of resistance. Okay? So again, the call scenario today was a little bit different. If you're in the room, you know exactly what I'm about to say because I say it every time we put these lines here, what we want to see to take a trade, what we want to see to skip a trade, and what we want to happen after we get into either one of these trades, right? So to the upside, I can't put a call line right here at resistance because there needed to be two criteria. So we put our call line here as a support level that we would want to pull back to hoping the Qs pull back off of this resistance, come down to their own support, and then that case, if as long as ADD is pushing up, we can take calls from down here to up here, or from down here, hopefully, to the yellow line. Okay? Now, very quickly, we found out, and our put line was a breach because we have price action below the pre-market midline, hoping for a move down to the pre-market low. Okay? Pretty easy enough to understand. The reason we were waiting for a breach, it's a solid support. The last time we got below that support, we went down to the next support. That's what I'm hoping to happen again. If we get below that support, I'm hoping it goes down to the next support. Easy peasy lemon squeezy, right? So we get into this trade. Some people did, some people didn't. Okay, I will tell you it was a little uncomfortable at first because Qs looked like they were trying to break this resistance that they'd failed to do several minutes leading into the open. But after the second candle started, we got to breathe quite a bit easier. Okay, so this here was paramount that Qs held resistance here. ADD at the time was printing a gigantic red candle, thankfully, because that allowed SPY to come down and gave Qs a minute to catch up and start to move down as well. All right. But what are we hoping for on the Qs or on SPY? The original target, and you can still see the alert set here, was our blue line. So we were hoping to get in from line A, get out at line B. But things changed. Qs got themselves below their pink line. And I was telling people, guys, as long as Qs stay below that big pink line, which was yesterday's high of day, and keep it as resistance, I'm hoping that not only can we get through the pre-market lines of the Qs, but we can make it down to at least the first target low. Okay? Now, if we can get through that first target low, we'd be aiming for all the way down here where your next support is on the Qs. Okay? It's none of these lines, but somewhere in that vicinity. Or you can aim for the next support down. Now for me, because this was an uncomfortable hold, and at one point I was red on the trade, so were some other people, we held because the Qs stayed below this line. SPY got below their line, stayed below it for the most part, came back, retested it several times. We were red on the trade at this point, but because the Qs were still holding down, we felt that the move to the downside, especially with ADD trending down, was more likely to be down than up. Okay, these are risks that you're going to take sometimes. Not every trade is going to be as clean as it can be. Not every trade is going to be a quick, instant win. Okay, we all hope for that to be the case, but sometimes it's not. And if it's not, you've got to find reasons and justifications to stay in that trade if you believe in it. And if you don't, or you're uncomfortable, stop yourself out before it gets to a point where you don't know what to do. Okay, so for me, again, I said it very clearly, as long as Qs stay below the pink line, we'd be hoping that this continues down. Now, we don't hold through 10 o'clock. I was aware of the time this time. We had an alert down here. I'm going to tell you a little secret about me when I put alerts on the chart. When I got into this trade, the very first thing I did was put an alert at the blue line. And I do that so that people who may not be paying attention to the chart or are waiting for a good, solid reason to get out of a trade, they can hear that, okay? They can hear the beep. I'm very much the same. Problem for me is when I put an alert on the chart, that's pretty much where I'm going to hold my trade until we get to it. Now, if the wheels fall off, in this case, if Qs got back above the pink line, I was going to have to stop out of that trade. So if Qs broke above the pink line and closed above it, I would have taken a big L on this trade. But because they didn't, I went ahead, the minute we closed below this line here, walked everybody through this entire trade. Told them, hey, if you got in because we breached support, we're looking for the first line down. Wait for the beep if you want. If we get within 5 cents of it, do whatever it is that you're going to do, but take your profits or stay in it. Qs are below the pink line. If they stay below the pink line, let's see if we can make it to the next line down on SPY. I made the decision to stay in this trade because we ultimately closed below this support line during a downtrend, which tells me we're more likely to head down to the next support. The one thing I wasn't prepared for was this pullback. Thankfully, My mind was made that as the Q stays below this, I'm going to stay in the trade. Now, at 9:59, because we didn't want to hold through the 10 o'clock candle, which would have paid bigly if we did. By the way, and when I say we all, there was a bunch of us that was waiting for this beep to go, and we got it at 9:59. Marketed out of our trade, only to then watch a massive 10 o'clock report, which was a huge consumer sentiment miss, push this thing down aggressively. You're going to win some, you're going to lose some. Everybody was upset that we didn't hold longer. And I said, guys, just think of it this way. If we would have held this trade longer, this candle probably would have been equally as sized, but green in the other direction. It's just the way it works. It's not wise to hold through those 10 o'clock candles because we really never know which way they're going to go. Okay? You never know. You'll never know. But you'll know after the fact, and yes, sometimes that result will make you upset. Sometimes that result will be relieving that you got out of the trade, okay? Because if you don't, and it goes the other way, that hurts a lot, and you instantly become a hold and hoper, I promise. All right? Now, to the downside, we continue. Lower highs, lower lows. This was not a clean move to the downside. It didn't feel clean anyway. We kept putting in lower highs, lower lows. Ultimately, getting down, we had this trend line drawn here, and people wanting to know, when should we buy calls? When should we buy puts? Guys, the pullbacks to the trend lines, the pullbacks to lines of resistance, whatever it is, just make sure it lines up equally with a line of resistance on the Qs, okay? So in this case, we pulled back to resistance here on the Qs. Now, I was trying to explain this earlier to somebody in our group. When is the best time to buy pullbacks? I'm going to give you a scenario because you'll never know until it's true if the best time to buy the pullback was the best time until after the fact. But what I look for is two things. I want to know that we're trending in the same direction that I'm buying the pullback of. So if we're trending down, yes, I'm looking for puts. I'd prefer them at pullbacks. More importantly, if SPY is at a level of resistance or pulling back to a level of resistance, but Qs have more space to go. So like right here, SPY and Qs were at a line of resistance at the same time. The odds are significantly better for you to get into the trade there and win than if you say get into a pullback on SPY when Qs are nowhere near a level of resistance. Assume that Qs are going to dictate what SPY does most of the time. So if Qs still have room to go before they hit a support or resistance level, it's best to wait to get into that trade, even if SPY is at a line of resistance, okay? Please try and retain that information. The ideal situation is when they are both pulling back to a level of resistance at the same time, and make it even stronger by looking at ADD and see if it's at least printing red, in this case, because we were looking for puts, or trending down. Okay, we're looking for confluence, multiple levels of confluence. All right. Now, when do puts come off the table? If you watch my videos, you know this by now. It's something I'm trying to hammer home to more and more people. Several points. Number one, you want to make sure that the downtrend line that you have is broken. Number one, that happens right here at 1044. Second criteria is take out the most recent resistance to your left. So we're compounding the reasoning for getting or considering calls. We're immediately considering puts off the table when we break the trend line. Puts come off the table. Doesn't mean to aggressively get into calls. Wait for at least a level of resistance to fail before you consider getting into those calls. Why? Let me explain why, okay? If you know there is a group of sellers at this line of resistance, which we know because not only is it a line that we put there before the market opened today, when we got below it, we held it for several candles as a point where sellers were clearly trying to protect that level, meaning they didn't want SPY to get above it. Well, if you got that much selling pressure happening at that resistance, how do you get out of a short position if you want to get out of your trade? If you're one of these sellers here and we finally close above that level, Not only are you instantly red on your trade, you're down. Well, in order to close a short, you have to buy to close. Well, when you buy in the market, what happens? The market goes up. Okay? So if you have a strong level of resistance that suddenly gets breached, then all of those shorts, especially if they're algos or, key levels or whatever, are going to have to buy to close, which helps your move continue up. If that's an aggressive entry, if you're a conservative trader, make sure that the resistance you just broke ultimately holds as support. And then take your entry. Okay? So 2 criteria. We closed on the other side of the downtrend line. We got above the most recent resistance. Period. That is when puts are dead, calls are on the table. When you choose to get into those calls, completely up to you. I talked the entire community through this entire move before all of it happened. All of it. Okay? If you know, you know. I wasn't trading it because I won and done already today. My trade was a 50% win. I was very happy with it. Got uncomfortable a couple of times, but I had a plan. I played out my plan, and I got out before 10 o'clock. Unfortunately, because 10 o'clock forced a big, massive move to the downside, but could have gone the other way also. But in this trade, I got nothing to gain. Guys, if you're looking for calls, puts come off the table because we broke the downtrend line. Wait for a break of resistance before you take calls. And if you do, we talked about every level up. I said the first one you're going to run into is going to be this double top here. If we close above that, the next one is all the way up near this blue line. Okay, first, actually, we talked about it here first. Okay, but if you get in down here and you're here and you're not coming lower, hold on to that trade. Everything was looking good to the upside at this point, including the Qs having done the same exact thing and continuing up. In fact, when we were all the way down here at this point, I said, guys, this could be huge because if the Qs, they broke their downtrend line, they got above their most recent lower high. If they continue and make it past this orange line here, their next one is all the way up here between pre-market low and pre-market midline on the Qs chart. Okay, so 1053, 1046, sorry. All the things we were looking for happened on the Qs and SPY right here on this candle. The next level up, if we closed above this orange line on the Qs, is all the way up here. We watched this entire move happen before every one of these things was talked about. I mean, we talked about it before this trade happened. Okay, and then it went way beyond that, continued up. Okay, but nonetheless, we were going from resistance A to resistance B, from resistance B to resistance C, from C to D. And then after that, all we have to aim for is our targets high. And you can see that they did pretty good jobs of being targets or support resistance levels as we got to and through them. All right. So with that, I got nothing else. We didn't do anything else in this because there's nothing to trade here. This is trash. All right. The chart died very quickly after this move down and move up. You got some whipsawing and yes, but it tightened up a lot on going into the close. Not something that I would condone. So with that, we're going to wrap it up. Hope you found some useful information in this video. If you did, please like, share, and subscribe. If you'd like to join our Discord community, well, there's a link down below. We'd love to have you. First week is completely free. Costs you nothing to hear everything that we talk about in these videos in real time. Nothing. Cost you nothing. If you don't like what you get for that free week, then thanks for stopping by. I hope you learned something and carry on. If you do, consider becoming a paying member because there are additional benefits to doing so. And that's pretty much it. So I hope you all had a fantastic day. And by the way, we are 5-1 green to red today, which is fantastic. Good job, guys. I hope you all have a fantastic day. Till tomorrow. I love you guys. See you.